There comes a moment in life when you have to stop asking yourself a difficult question. Why do they keep treating me this way? Why do they interrupt you every time you speak? Why do they ignore your boundaries? Why do they only respect you when they need something? Why do they make promises they never keep? Why do they speak to you in ways they would never dare speak to someone else? And perhaps the most painful question of all, why do you keep allowing it? Because here's a truth most people don't want to hear. Sometimes the problem isn't that people don't know how to respect you. Sometimes you've taught them that they don't have to. You tolerated the disrespect. You laughed it off. You stayed silent. You accepted excuses. You kept giving second chances. You kept explaining yourself. You kept hoping they would eventually change. And slowly, without realizing it, you taught them that your boundaries were negotiable, that your time wasn't valuable, that your words didn't have consequences, that you would always be there, no matter how they treated you. But Stoicism teaches us something different. The Stoics understood that you cannot force people to respect you. You cannot control their character. You cannot control their opinions. You cannot control how they behave. But you can control something far more important, what you tolerate. And that changes everything. Because respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you cultivate through the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the boundaries you set, the standards you maintain, and most importantly, the way you respond when someone crosses the line. In this video, we're going to uncover 7 signs that someone doesn't truly respect you. But more importantly, you'll learn how to respond to disrespect using the principles of Stoic philosophy. Because the goal isn't to become aggressive. It isn't to become arrogant. It isn't to get revenge. The goal is to become so grounded in your own character that disrespect no longer has the power to destroy your peace. You become calm. You become observant. You become selective. And when necessary, you walk away. Sign number 1, they constantly disregard your boundaries. One of the clearest signs someone doesn't respect you is simple. They repeatedly cross boundaries you've already communicated. You tell them you don't like something. They keep doing it. You tell them you need space. They keep pushing. You tell them not to speak to you a certain way. They do it again, and again, and again. The first time someone crosses a boundary, it may be a mistake. The second time, perhaps they misunderstood. But when you've clearly communicated your boundary, and they repeatedly ignore it, you are no longer dealing with a misunderstanding. You're dealing with a choice. They're choosing to ignore what matters to you. And this is where many people make a mistake. They keep explaining. They say, I already told you I don't like this. Why do you keep doing this? Please respect what I'm asking. They repeat themselves over and over. But here's the problem. A boundary without consequences is often just a request. You can tell someone what you will and won't accept, but you can't force them to behave differently. The Stoic understand this. You don't control another person's actions. You control your own. So instead of endlessly arguing with someone who refuses to respect your boundary, you change your response. If they continue crossing the line, you create distance. You reduce access. You stop participating. You leave the conversation. You walk away from the situation. You don't need to scream. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to create a dramatic scene. You simply enforce the boundary. Because your actions must eventually match your words. Think about this. If you tell someone, I won't stay in conversations where I'm insulted, and then they insult you, and you stay for another hour arguing, what message did your actions send? They heard your words, but they watched your behavior, and your behavior told them the boundary isn't real. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to control the other person. The Stoic controls their own participation, and that's a powerful difference. Remember, you don't have to convince someone to respect your boundary. You only have to decide what you will do when they don't. That is where your power begins. Sign number 2, they only respect you when you are useful. Here's another sign that someone may not truly respect you. They only treat you well when they need something. When they need help, they call you. When they need advice, they remember your name. When they need money, suddenly you're important. When they need a favor, they become incredibly friendly. But when you need them, silence. When you're struggling, they're busy. When you need support, they disappear, and then, the moment they need something again, they return. This isn't genuine respect. It's convenience. And there is a difference. Someone who respects you values your presence. Someone who values your presence doesn't only remember you when you are useful. The Stoic teaches us to pay attention to reality rather than the stories we tell ourselves. Don't listen only to what people say. Observe what they consistently do. Anyone can say, "I appreciate you," but do their actions demonstrate appreciation? Anyone can say, "You're important to me," but are they there when you need them? Anyone can say, "I respect you," but do they respect your time, your boundaries, your feelings, your decisions? Words are easy. Patterns are harder to fake. So if someone repeatedly appears only when they need something, pay attention. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to accuse them. You don't have to start a war. Simply recognize the pattern and adjust your investment accordingly. The Stoic doesn't demand that everyone love them. They simply refuse to be emotionally dependent on people who consistently show that they don't value them. Sometimes the wisest response is not confrontation. It's detachment. Stop overgiving. Stop overexplaining. Stop being constantly available. Stop giving unlimited access to someone who only values you when you are useful. You don't need to announce your withdrawal. Just change your behavior. Because sometimes, the moment you stop making yourself endlessly available, people suddenly realize how much they took you for granted. And sometimes they don't. Either way, you win. Because you finally stopped abandoning yourself to keep someone else comfortable. Sign number 3. They interrupt, dismiss, or ignore you. Have you ever been in a conversation where you feel like you're not actually being heard? You begin speaking, they interrupt. You continue, they talk over you. You explain your point, they dismiss it. You share an opinion, they immediately tell you why you're wrong. And after a while, you stop speaking. You stop expressing yourself. You start questioning whether your thoughts are even worth sharing. This is dangerous, because repeated disrespect can slowly train you to silence yourself. You begin shrinking. You become afraid to speak. You second-guess every opinion. You apologize for having needs. You apologize for taking up space. And eventually, you start believing that your voice doesn't matter. But here's something you must understand. Someone dismissing you does not make your voice worthless. It reveals something about their willingness to listen. There's a difference between disagreement and disrespect. Someone can disagree with you and still respect you. Someone can challenge your ideas and still value your perspective. Respect doesn't require agreement. But if someone consistently refuses to hear you, if they constantly interrupt, if they mock your thoughts, if they make you feel foolish for expressing yourself, then you need to pay attention. The Stoic doesn't respond by becoming louder. They don't need to win every conversation. They don't need to dominate every room. They simply remain composed. You can calmly say, "I'd like to finish what I'm saying," or, "You don't have to agree with me, but I'd appreciate being heard." And if the person continues, you have another choice. You don't have to keep fighting for space in a conversation where someone has already decided not to listen. You can step back. You can disengage. Because your dignity doesn't require you to win an argument. Marcus Aurelius understood that the opinions of others were outside his control. You cannot force someone to appreciate your perspective, but you can refuse to let their dismissal determine your self-worth. Remember, being unheard by the wrong person doesn't mean your voice has no value. Sometimes, you simply need to stop speaking to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The Stoic response to disrespect. Now, before we continue the remaining signs, let's establish something important. This video isn't about teaching you to become suspicious of everyone. It isn't about encouraging you to cut people off at the first mistake. Stoicism isn't paranoia. It's awareness. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has bad days. Everyone can behave poorly sometimes. The question is it a pattern? That's the difference. A single mistake can be corrected. A repeated pattern reveals character. The Stoic learns to observe patterns without becoming consumed by them. They don't immediately explode. They don't immediately retaliate. They pause. They observe. They ask, what is actually happening? Then, What is within my control? And finally, what response is consistent with the person I want to become? That final question is everything. Because someone else's disrespect doesn't give you permission to abandon your principles. If someone is rude, you don't have to become rude. If someone lies, you don't have to become dishonest. If someone tries to provoke you, you don't have to lose control. If someone behaves without dignity, you don't have to follow them into the mud. Your character is still yours. And that is what the Stoics understood better than most people. You cannot always control how people treat you, but you can control whether their behavior changes who you are. Respect yourself before demanding respect from others. Here's a difficult question. Do you respect yourself? Not in words. In actions. Do you respect your time? Do you protect your energy? Do you keep promises to yourself? Do you enforce your boundaries? Do you walk away from situations that repeatedly destroy your peace? Because sometimes the way others treat us reflects what we repeatedly tolerate. If you constantly accept being treated badly, people learn that access to you comes without responsibility. But when you begin respecting yourself, your behavior changes. You become more selective. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop accepting crumbs and calling them a feast. You stop confusing attention with respect. And you begin understanding something incredibly important. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. Your time is valuable. Your attention is valuable. Your energy is valuable. Your presence is valuable. And you don't need to give it to everyone. This doesn't mean you become selfish. It means you become intentional. You stop giving your best energy to people who consistently give you their worst. You stop pouring into relationships that only drain you. You stop trying to earn respect from people who have already decided not to give it. And slowly, you become calmer. Not because everyone suddenly changed, but because you stop expecting everyone to. Sign number 4, they make you question your own worth. One of the most dangerous signs that someone doesn't respect you is when their behavior consistently makes you question your value. You begin feeling like you're never enough, never smart enough, never successful enough, never attractive enough, never interesting enough, never good enough. And sometimes, they don't even have to insult you directly. They may use subtle comments. Are you really going to wear that? You think you can actually do that? I don't know why anyone would choose you. You're lucky I even give you attention. Nobody else would put up with you. These words may be disguised as jokes, but repeated often enough, they begin to affect your mind. You start believing them. And that's the danger, because when someone repeatedly attacks your self-worth, you may eventually start working harder to earn their approval. You begin trying to prove yourself. You try to become more attractive, more successful, more agreeable, more available. You think, maybe if I change this about myself, they'll finally respect me. But here's the truth. You should never have to destroy your identity to earn someone's respect. A person who genuinely respects you may challenge you. They may criticize your behavior. They may tell you when you're wrong. But they don't constantly attack your worth as a human being. There's a difference between correction and humiliation. There's a difference between honest feedback and emotional manipulation. A respectful person can say, I think you made a mistake. A disrespectful person says, you always mess everything up. One addresses your behavior. The other attacks your identity. Learn to recognize the difference. Because if someone consistently makes you feel worthless, you need to ask yourself a very important question. Why am I allowing another person's opinion to become the foundation of my self-worth? The Stoics would remind you that your value comes from your character, not from applause, not from popularity, not from someone's approval, not from another person's attention. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. He had enormous status. Yet Stoic philosophy constantly reminded him that external status was not the source of true worth. The same principle applies to you. Your worth isn't determined by who chooses you. Your worth isn't determined by who rejects you. Your worth isn't determined by who stays. Your worth isn't determined by who leaves. People can misunderstand you. They can underestimate you. They can criticize you. They can even hate you. None of those things automatically change who you are. So when someone repeatedly tries to make you feel small, Don't immediately fight them. Don't try desperately to prove your worth. Step back, observe, and remember, you don't need to become bigger in someone else's eyes. You need to become stronger in your own. Sign number 5. They test how much disrespect you will tolerate. This sign is subtle, and it happens more often than you think. Someone crosses a small boundary. They watch your reaction. You say nothing, so they cross another. You remain silent. They push further. Still nothing. And eventually, the disrespect becomes normal. This is why some people gradually become more disrespectful over time. Not because they suddenly changed, but because they discovered what you will tolerate. Think about it. If someone makes an inappropriate joke at your expense, and you laugh nervously, they may assume it's acceptable. If they cancel plans repeatedly, and you always forgive them without addressing it, they may assume your time doesn't matter. If they speak to you disrespectfully, and you continue giving them unlimited access, they learn that there are no consequences. This doesn't mean you should become aggressive. It doesn't mean you should punish everyone who makes a mistake. But it does mean you should pay attention, because people learn from patterns. And your response teaches people what access to you looks like. The Stoic doesn't spend their life trying to control other people's behavior. They control access. They control participation. They control distance. They control their own response. Imagine someone repeatedly speaks to you disrespectfully. You don't need to scream. You can simply say, "I won't continue this conversation if you speak to me that way." Then if they continue, you leave. That's it. No dramatic speech. No endless argument. No revenge. Your action communicates the boundary. And here's something powerful. A boundary becomes real when you're willing to enforce it. If someone knows you will always stay, they have little reason to change. But if they know disrespect comes with reduced access to you, the dynamic changes. And sometimes they change, and sometimes they don't. But either way, you have your answer. Don't confuse kindness with weakness. Some people are afraid to set boundaries because they think boundaries make them rude. They think, "I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to think I'm difficult. I don't want to seem selfish." So they tolerate everything. They forgive everything. They accept everything. And eventually, they become resentful. This is not kindness. This is self-abandonment. True kindness doesn't require you to destroy yourself. You can be kind and still say no. You can be compassionate and still walk away. You can forgive someone and still refuse to give them the same access to your life. These things are not contradictions. They are wisdom. The Stoic understands that compassion without wisdom can become self-destruction. You don't have to hate someone to create distance. You don't have to wish someone harm to protect yourself. You don't have to seek revenge to move forward. Sometimes the most peaceful decision is simply, "I wish you well, but I no longer want to participate in this dynamic." That's strength, the difference between respect and fear. Now, here's an important distinction. You may be able to make someone fear you, but that doesn't mean they respect you. Fear is temporary. Respect is earned. You can intimidate people. You can threaten people. You can become aggressive. And perhaps people will obey you. But the moment you're no longer around, they may do exactly what they want. The Stoics weren't interested in controlling people through fear. They were interested in developing character. And that's the kind of respect you should pursue. Not, "People respect me because they're afraid of me," but, "People respect me because I respect myself and treat others with dignity." There's a huge difference. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to dominate every conversation. You don't need to prove you're powerful. Real strength is often quiet. A person who knows their worth doesn't need to constantly announce it. They don't threaten. They don't brag. They don't seek conflict. They simply have standards, and they are willing to live by them. The Stoic response: don't react from ego. Here's where Stoicism becomes incredibly useful. When someone disrespects you, your ego wants immediate action. It says, you need to teach them a lesson. You can't let them get away with that. You need to show them who's in charge. But the Stoic asks a different question. What response serves my character? That's a completely different mindset. The ego asks, how do I make them regret this? The Stoic asks, How do I remain in control of myself? The ego wants revenge. The Stoic wants wisdom. The ego wants the last word. The Stoic wants peace. The ego wants to win the moment. The Stoic wants to win the war within. Because what good is it to defeat someone else? If you lose control of yourself in the process, you may win the argument, but lose your dignity. You may prove your point, but destroy the relationship. You may get revenge, but become consumed by bitterness. The Stoic understands. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the strongest response is to say, I don't accept this, and then walk away. Sign number 6. They only respect you when you are useful to them. Now, let's take this even deeper. There are people who don't respect you. They respect what you provide. Your money, your connections, your influence, your skills, your attention, your emotional support, your availability. As long as you're useful, they treat you well. The moment you're no longer useful, their behavior changes. This can happen in friendships, relationships, workplaces, even families. And sometimes it's difficult to recognize because the person isn't always openly disrespectful. They may be friendly. They may compliment you. They may appear supportive. But pay attention to the pattern. Are they interested in your life, or only what you can do for theirs? Do they ask how you're doing, or do they immediately ask for a favor? Do they celebrate your success, or do they only contact you when they need help? Do they respect your no, or do they become angry when you stop giving? This last question is extremely revealing. A person who respects you will respect your boundaries even when you aren't useful to them. A person who only values your usefulness may become hostile when you stop providing what they want. And that's when you discover the truth. The Stoic doesn't measure relationships by words. They observe actions. They ask, what is the pattern? Then they act accordingly. You don't have to accuse them. You don't have to expose them. You don't have to announce your departure. Simply stop overinvesting in people who consistently underinvest in you. Your energy is limited. Spend it wisely. Sign number 7. They don't respect your no. This is perhaps one of the clearest signs of all. You say no. They don't accept it. You say no again. They pressure you. You explain yourself. They keep pushing. You feel guilty. So eventually, you say yes. And now they know something important. They know that your no doesn't really mean no. They know that if they push long enough, you'll give in. This is how boundaries disappear. Not all at once, but one compromise at a time. The Stoics understood the importance of self-control. And sometimes self-control means having the courage to disappoint someone. You don't have to say yes to avoid being disliked. You don't have to sacrifice your time to avoid guilt. You don't have to explain every decision. Sometimes, no is a complete sentence. You don't owe everyone access to your time. You don't owe everyone your energy. You don't owe everyone your resources. And you don't owe everyone an explanation. Of course, there are situations where explanation is appropriate. But if someone repeatedly refuses to accept your answer, the problem isn't your explanation. The problem is that they don't respect your decision. And you must learn to recognize this. Because people who genuinely respect you may be disappointed by your no, but they will accept it. They won't punish you. They won't manipulate you. They won't guilt trip you. They won't threaten to leave. They won't make you feel like a terrible person. They'll simply understand. You have the right to choose. Stop explaining every boundary. One of the biggest mistakes people make is over-explaining themselves. You say, I can't come because... Then you provide 5 reasons. Then another 3. Then you apologize. Then you offer an alternative. Why? Because you're afraid they won't accept your decision. But here's the problem. The more you explain, the more opportunities you give someone to argue. You say, I can't do this because I'm tired. They say, you're always tired. You say, I have too much work. They say, just make time. You say, I need to rest. They say, you never make time for me. Now you're defending yourself in court, but you were never on trial. You simply made a decision. The Stoic understands that you don't need universal approval for every choice you make. Sometimes the answer is simply, I won't be able to do that. And that's enough. You don't have to convince everyone. The danger of chasing respect. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The more desperately you chase respect, the less powerful you become. Think about someone who constantly says, "Respect me. You need to respect me. Don't you know who I am?" Why are they saying it? Because they feel disrespected. But real respect rarely needs to be demanded repeatedly. It is demonstrated through behavior. The Stoic doesn't spend their life demanding respect. They focus on becoming respectable. They become reliable, disciplined, calm, honest, courageous, consistent. They don't need to announce their standards. Their behavior reveals them. And when someone violates those standards, they respond accordingly. This is the key. Don't chase respect. Build character. Don't spend your life trying to force people to see your value. Develop your value. Develop your discipline. Develop your wisdom. Develop your self-respect. And then become selective about who gets access to you. The power of reducing access. Here's something many people don't understand. You don't always have to cut someone out completely. Sometimes you simply need to reduce access. Maybe you stop sharing personal information. Maybe you stop asking for their approval. Maybe you stop responding immediately. Maybe you stop doing favors. Maybe you stop explaining your decisions. Maybe you stop giving them the emotional reactions they're used to receiving. This is not manipulation. It's adjustment. You are simply responding to reality. If someone repeatedly demonstrates that they cannot handle your trust, you give them less of it. If someone repeatedly abuses your generosity, you become less available. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundaries, you create more distance. This is not revenge. This is wisdom. The Stoic doesn't punish people. They simply stop giving people opportunities to repeatedly disturb their peace. Your reaction reveals your power. Here's something you must remember. When someone disrespects you, they may be testing your emotions. They may want to see you angry. They may want you to lose control. Because when you lose control, you become easier to manipulate. So don't give them that satisfaction. Pause, breathe, think, ask yourself, what outcome do I actually want? Do you want revenge? Or do you want peace? Do you want to prove them wrong? Or do you want to protect your dignity? Do you want to win the argument? Or do you want to maintain control over yourself? The answer will determine your response. Sometimes you speak. Sometimes you leave. Sometimes you forgive. Sometimes you create distance. But whatever you do it consciously, not emotionally. Because your greatest power isn't the ability to hurt someone back. Your greatest power is the ability to remain yourself when someone else tries to pull you out of character. The Stoic doesn't beg for respect. Think about this. Would Marcus Aurelius chase someone around demanding, "Please respect me"? No. Would Epictetus beg someone to recognize his worth? No. Would Seneca spend his entire life trying to convince every critic that he was a good person? No. The Stoic understands. Your character is your responsibility. Other people's opinions are theirs. Other people's behavior is theirs. Your response is yours. So instead of asking, "How do I make them respect me?" ask, "Am I respecting myself?" Are you honoring your values? Are you keeping your word? Are you protecting your time? Are you setting boundaries? Are you walking away when necessary? Are you choosing dignity over desperation? Because the moment you start doing these things, you stop needing everyone else to validate you. And that is where real power begins. The most important lesson. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. You cannot force someone to respect you. You can demand it. You can argue for it. You can threaten for it. But genuine respect cannot be forced. What you can control is your response. You can control your standards. You can control your boundaries. You can control who gets access to you. And you can control whether you remain true to yourself. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. They observe. They decide. They act. Then they move forward. And that is what you must learn to do. In Phase 3, we're going to explore the deeper side of this topic. We'll examine what to do when someone repeatedly disrespects you, how to respond without becoming bitter or vengeful, why silence can sometimes be more powerful than confrontation, and how to know when it's finally time to walk away. Because recognizing disrespect is only the first step. The real question is, what will you do when you recognize it? Will you react from anger, or will you respond from strength? Will you chase their approval, or will you protect your dignity? Will you keep explaining yourself, or will you let your actions speak? The answer will determine whether you remain trapped in the cycle of disrespect, or finally break free from it. And sometimes, the most powerful response to disrespect isn't to fight harder. It's to become so grounded in yourself that you no longer need to fight at all. The final lesson, when to walk away and how to reclaim your power. We've reached the most important part of this conversation. Because recognizing disrespect is one thing. Knowing what to do about it is something else entirely. You can identify the signs. You can recognize the patterns. You can see when someone is crossing your boundaries. But the real test of Stoic wisdom begins when you have to decide how you will respond. Will you react emotionally? Will you seek revenge? Will you spend days trying to prove your worth? Will you keep explaining yourself to someone who has already decided not to understand? Or will you do something far more powerful? Will you remain in control of yourself? Because remember, the ultimate goal isn't to make everyone respect you. The ultimate goal is to become the kind of person who doesn't abandon their principles simply because someone else behaves badly. That's the real battle. And that's where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes a way of life. But don't confuse silence with tolerance. Now, there's an important distinction. Silence doesn't mean you should tolerate everything. Sometimes silence is wisdom. Sometimes silence is avoidance. You must know the difference. If someone makes one careless comment, you may choose to let it go. If someone repeatedly violates your boundaries, you may need to speak. If someone continues to disrespect you, you may need to create distance. Stoicism isn't about becoming passive. It's about becoming intentional. The Stoic doesn't ask, how can I avoid every conflict? They ask, what response is appropriate? Sometimes the appropriate response is patience. Sometimes it's confrontation. Sometimes it's forgiveness. Sometimes it's distance. Sometimes it's permanent separation. The goal is to choose the most peaceful option every time. The goal is to choose the wisest option. When you should walk away, there comes a point when you have to recognize something. Not every relationship is meant to be saved. Some relationships can be repaired. Some conflicts can be resolved. Some misunderstandings can be corrected. But some situations will only continue to damage you. If you've clearly communicated your boundaries, if you've given someone opportunities to change, if you explained yourself calmly, and the same disrespect continues, you need to consider walking away. Not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, not because you're trying to punish them, but because you finally accepted reality. And acceptance is a central part of Stoic philosophy. You cannot force someone to become a better person. You cannot force someone to develop empathy. You cannot force someone to value you. You cannot force someone to respect your boundaries. At some point, you have to stop trying to control what isn't yours to control and make a decision about what you will do next. Walking away isn't always a sign that you lost. Sometimes, walking away is the moment you finally choose yourself. Don't announce your departure. Here's something interesting. When you're truly ready to walk away, you don't always need to announce it. You don't need a dramatic speech. You don't need to write a long message explaining every reason. You don't need to make sure everyone knows what happened. Sometimes, you simply leave. Quietly, respectfully, with dignity. Because your goal isn't to make the other person understand. Your goal is to protect your peace. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, you don't need to convince them that they were wrong. Their opinion isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is your own life, your own character, your own peace. And sometimes the most powerful sentence you can say is, "This is no longer healthy for me." Then you act accordingly. Your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to recognize it. Imagine you have a diamond. Someone walks past it and says, "That's just a rock." Does the diamond become less valuable? No. The person's inability to recognize its value doesn't change what it is. The same is true for you. Someone's rejection doesn't make you worthless. Someone's criticism doesn't make you a failure. Someone's disrespect doesn't make you insignificant. Someone's decision to leave doesn't mean you weren't worth staying for. Never allow someone else's inability to appreciate you to become the reason you stop appreciating yourself. The Stoic doesn't need everyone to recognize their value. They know their character. They know their principles. They know what they stand for. And that's enough. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You need to be honest with yourself. The 7 signs, remember them. Let's bring everything together. Sign number 1, they repeatedly disregard your boundaries. Sign number 2, they only respect you when you're useful to them. Sign number 3, they constantly interrupt, dismiss, or ignore you. Sign number 4, they make you question your own worth. Sign number 5, they repeatedly test how much disrespect you will tolerate. Sign number 6, they value what you provide more than who you are. Sign number 7, they refuse to respect your no. These signs don't mean you should immediately cut everyone out of your life. Remember, context matters. People make mistakes. People can change, but patterns matter. If you see the same behavior repeatedly, pay attention. Don't ignore reality because you're attached to your expectations. Observe, think, decide, and act. If this video gave you a new perspective on respect, boundaries, and emotional control, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful lessons on Stoicism, self-discipline, emotional mastery, and inner peace. And before you leave, ask yourself one final question. What is one thing I've been tolerating that I should no longer accept? Think about it. Be honest. And when you know the answer, don't react. Don't seek revenge. Don't create unnecessary drama. Simply make a decision, because your life changes when your standards change. Respect yourself enough to walk away from what repeatedly disrespects you. And never forget, the strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. Sometimes, it's the person who knows exactly when to speak, exactly when to remain silent, and exactly when to walk away.